Hello, good evening and welcome to everyone on behalf of Bandra Kurla Study Circle. We have with us our own member, our own senior member, CA Suresh Jain. He has experience over 3 decades. He is an entrepreneur as well as GST professional. He has worked for corporate for a few years and started his own export business. He is consultant with multinational corporations, startups, and solopreneurs. He is faculty for GST with ICA and other institutions. He is certified GST and GCC VAT professional with GST Center for imparting training to its students. He has conducted multiple batches of training for GST course for Institute of Company Secretaries of India. He has written many articles on GST, GCC VAT published on various online and offline platforms. He is faculty with ICA for MCS and Orientation course. He is consultant for NSIC, Government of India undertaking to train MSME for understanding GST. Has also trained many students for management skill and communication skill. He conducts mock interview and mock group discussion training for freshers. Eager to help students from any field, mentor with readily and startup for career guidance and associated with social service organization. With this brief introduction, I welcome Shri CA Suresh Jain and invite him to take charge of the session.
Thank you, Mr. Mangesh. Am I audible to all of you?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thanks. I must thank BKCCP Study Circle for giving me this opportunity and being part of the study circle myself. I'm very happy to present this e-invoicing session today on GST. Thanks to Mr. Mangesh and also to Bharti ma'am for giving me this opportunity. As we all know, GST was started with the aim of curtailing the problems what we were facing in the earlier this thing. We had VAT, we had excise, we had service tax, all of this was merged into GST. Finally, the basic aim was to avoid the cascading effect. What we had, the double taxation system and cascading effect and all those things, that was one of the major aim of GST when it started in July 2017. Then the other aim was to reduce the cost of compliance, both to the government as well as to the businesses. Businesses, I don't think it has happened till now. The cost is increasing only every day. And with this invoicing, again, it is going to increase only, it is not going to reduce. But maybe in the long run, it may happen so. Then there was third point, which was that they wanted to bring in lots of FDI by implementing GST. That has also not happened till now, according to me. So we have really not done well as far as GST is concerned. GST is very dynamic law, I would say. Amongst all other major laws, GST is a very dynamic law. There has been changes every day. Every day one new notification will come or something or other else will come on. So there's always a change in GST. जीएसटी में अगर नोटिफिकेशन नहीं आता है तो हमको लगता है कुछ गड़बड़ है. अगर कुछ क्लैरिफिकेशन और नोटिफिकेशन नहीं आया 5 दिन 10 दिन तक तो हमको लगता है कि कुछ गड़बड़ है. तो मैं आप लोगों के लिए एक छोटी सी 2 लाइनें लिखा हूं जो मैं आपको सुनाना चाहता हूं, which is related to GST, if Mr. Mangesh permits me.
Yeah, sure, sir.
Okay. अब तो जीएसटी के नोटिफिकेशन और क्लैरिफिकेशंस की आदत सी पड़ गई है. 10 दिन तक नया नोटिफिकेशन ना आए तो लगता है दिन में रात हो गई है. इतने स्पीड से जीएसटी ने राह पकड़ी थी, हम चलते चलते रुक गए. जीएसटी सेटल होने की राह में हम इंतजार ही करते रह गए. थैंक यू. So this was two lines which I had written myself on GST. Whenever I get few time nowadays, I try to do that. कोविड ने थोड़ा सा इसमें भी डेवलपमेंट किया है जो कि पहले नहीं हो रहा था. कोविड की वजह से वो भी मेरे को थोड़ी सी फुर्सत मिली है, तो आई एम एबल टू राइट समथिंग. So GST has not been able to settle down till now. We have been waiting and hope this does not happen with e-invoicing also. E-invoicing goes on well, I suppose so. Without any difficulty, we should be able to carry out this e-invoicing easily. So let's hope for the best. I start my e-invoicing session for the day. We all know e-invoicing under GST is not actually creating an invoice under the system. It is not that you will have to create an invoice in this system. GST system nowhere says that कि हमको invoice उसमें जाके बनानी है. बहुत लोगों का myth ये है, a lot of people have this myth that we have to create an invoice within the system. It is not like that. We do not have to create the invoice within the system. That is the first thing. Now the second thing is why this e-invoicing system has been brought in. Why it was there? It has been there for quite some time. It was first passed somewhere in last year, 2019. Then it was to start from 1st January 2020 in phased manner, and then it was to start on regular basis from 1st of April 2020. But COVID came in between and we had to postpone it again. Now, again, they have planning to start this from 1st of October. We are hardly left with 15 days. We are already on 12th today, hardly 17, 18 days are left out for people, those who will be involved with this e-invoicing system. There is a lot of work which they have to do. They have to understand a lot of things before actually it is implemented. Pardon? Okay. Now this is going to start from 1st October 2020. So preparedness has to be there, and we should all be able to take it seriously and inform all our clients who are above 500 crores for the time being. It may become implementable to others also at later stage. पहले जो इनका law था वो था 100 crores का, which they changed to 500 crores now. So 500 crores, those whose turnover is above 500 crores should all be prepared for e-invoicing from 1st of October. And the system has already started accepting invoices on trial basis from, I think, if not from 7th or 11th, yesterday or 7th. From any of these two, it has already started accepting the invoices also on trial basis. So we should see that everyone is prepared for e-invoicing under GST. So in the 37th meeting on 20th September 2019, Council had recommended introduction of e-invoicing from 1st of April 2020 in phased manner starting from 1st of January. And that time when the Council had thought of it, that time they had decided to include everyone above 100 crores. So 100 crores, there would have been lot many people than what we have today. Is it on the speaker, this thing? Can you all see me?
Yes, we can see you.
Okay, fine. Because here my picture is not coming, other than me, everyone else is there. Thank you. So it has been decided that above 500 crores from 1st October, it will become applicable. This is the revised date. Now, electronic invoicing. So-called electronic invoicing is basically nothing. It is to generate the IRN number. It is nothing but to generate the IRN number. Now, this IRN number is invoice registration number. Invoice registration number can be generated by following the schema which has been given by the site. Invoice registration portal is there, IRP is there. If we go to that site, we will know how to register the invoice. And there is nothing, it is not that it's a very big thing which we have to do. कोई बहुत उसमें ये नहीं है, not much कि हम नहीं कर सकते हैं या वैसा कुछ भी नहीं है. It's a very simple process. Everyone can do it. The only thing is, initially people will feel that our workload has increased. That's the only difference, nothing much. So initially only people will feel कि हमारा workload बढ़ गया है और कुछ भी नहीं है. Invoice is a very important document in GST. We all know that. Because we can get ITC only when we receive invoices from the suppliers. This has been very clearly mentioned under section 16 that to claim ITC, you have certain requirements, and invoice is one of the major requirements which we all need to have. Mr. Mangesh, I am not able to see myself on the screen. So I get a bit distinct. Whom am I talking to?
We are able to see you, sir.
Okay, but
can you see now?
Let me see. Yeah, now I can see. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's already a webinar and you don't see anyone and not yourself also, then you feel very awkward. Whom am I talking to? Okay. So invoice, as we all know, is a very important document to claim input tax credit. And that was the basic reason why GST was started, so that we don't have this cascading effect of double taxation and all. So this was one of the reasons for starting your e-invoicing. Second thing why e-invoicing has been started is basically because, I'll just go to the next slide. Basically, the reason is tax evasion. A lot of tax evasion has been happening. Initially, they are doing it for 500 crores and above, but later I am sure they will bring in 100 crores people also into it, whose turnover is above 100 crores also. Initially, to start with, because we are in between middle of the year, 1st October, they have not considered everyone right now, but later they will start with 100 crores also, and they will include many people in it slowly. Right now, they are not giving more to it. They want to first start it and see how it is working, what is the impact of it, whether the businesses are liking it or not, whether they'll be able to manage with the facilities given, the formats given in the schema and all that. So they are starting only with 500 crores as of now. Tax evasion is one of the basic reasons why it has been done. E-way bill was also brought with that aim only, tax evasion, and this IRN is also for your tax evasion. Basic reason is tax evasion. People have been claiming input tax credit left, right, and center from everywhere by just creating invoices, and within the group, they are just circulating those invoices and taking ITC benefit. That is why government came out with ITC, other than which is mentioned in 2A to 20%, then they reduce it to 10% also. That is the basic reason. So tax evasion is one of the things which they want to stop, and that is why they are bringing in this e-invoicing. E-invoicing is very common in many countries. More than 60 countries are in process of adapting to e-invoicing. Some of them have already adopted where similar GST or VAT system is there. So they have already adopted. More countries are on way of adopting it. The only difference is this: in those countries, businesses have been given time of 2 years, 3 years. Here we have been given time of another 1 month. That's all. सितंबर में उन्होंने लॉन्च किया और अक्टूबर में हमको बोला कि आपको ई-इनवॉइसिंग में जाना है. Of course, they have been trying for it since the beginning of GST, but then the time given to us is here very less. In other countries, they give you 2 years, 3 years, 1 year time to implement a new system. In our country, we have been giving maximum 2 months time to implement e-invoicing. That is the only difference. Once you make an e-invoice and you get an your IRN number, you cannot make any deletion or addition. You cannot edit the invoice. You cannot make any changes in the invoice. So that is the reason, and it has to be done immediately. It cannot be done 10 days after or 5 days after or 4 days after. It is a system of reporting basically. Government wants a reporting from us. That is why they are collecting all this data. It is not that the government is not getting the data. They are getting the data even today. We are filing the returns. GSTR1 we are filing. CB we are filing. So everything we are filing. But the time difference between the filing of the invoice and in e-invoicing is almost, suppose I am raising an invoice on 1st of September. I get time to file till next month 11. So 40 days I get time. But here you have to file it immediately. You cannot wait. So those who have got turnover, those who are coming under this e-invoicing scheme, they have to file it immediately. The filing system is based on your same JSON file which we have been using till now in GST. The same JSON file system is here. The schema which they have given is very much the same JSON file. We are all used to JSON file by now, I suppose, under GST. So here, what does this say? Applicable to all suppliers whose aggregate turnover is more than 500 crores in FY 2019-20. Earlier it was 100 crores, which has been changed to 500 crores to give bit relief to the small businesses. Now, aggregate turnover, very clearly mentioned. We all know the definition of aggregate turnover. I'll come to that also. We have a slide for that also. But whose aggregate turnover, and now they are talking about, for the time being, they are talking about 1920, financial year 1920. इनका भी turnover 1920 में 500 crores का था. They are all part of this e-invoicing. Now there will be few questions related to this, I'm sure, which will come from your side, or I'll wait for the questions to come from your side and we'll take it over. I'm not asking you right now, but there should be questions in your mind about this particular part. Aggregate turnover, financial year 1920, and both of these things. So we will see if questions come from your side. Otherwise, I will take up the questions myself in the end. Now, applicable from 1st of October 2020, as of now, new schema has been notified via notification number 61, 2020, which has come in July 2020. This has been notified on the site. IRP portal also it is there, and I think you'll be able to find it on the GST site also. So new schema has been given. New schema is only the same thing through which we have to file details about our invoice. हमारे invoice में जो data है वो हमको डाल के उसमें डालना है और बताना है उनको गवर्नमेंट के पास में वो डेटा भेजना है, GST को वो डेटा भेजना है. That is what is our work from our side for the time being. The invoice has to be created by us only. It is not going to be created on the side of GST. उनके वेबसाइट पे नहीं बनेगा, उनके IRP पोर्टल पे नहीं बनेगा, हमारे यहाँ ही हमारा GST बनेगा, जैसे अब तक बनता आया है वैसे ही बनेगा. There is no major change in that. Only thing is when the invoice is registered with the portal, then after that you get the IRN number and your QR code. So when you get the QR code, that QR code has to be placed somewhere on the invoice which you are going to give to your supplier. So that is the only major difference. So आपके पास में वापस वो invoice आएगी by way of JSON file again from the IRP portal, and then you will have to make an invoice and send it back to your supplier if you want it. Otherwise, the copy will go directly also from the IRP to the recipient. So this notification has been given while your notification number 60, so 61, the schema has been given. Now this is your aggregate turnover. We all know aggregate turnover includes everything. It includes your exempt supplies, it includes your exports, it includes everything based on permanent account number. It is a permanent account number based thing. So your aggregate turnover always includes everything except the tax part. उसके अंदर आपका exempt supplies भी आ जाती है. All supplies which you are making comes under this, including the export and reverse charge also. Everything comes. all supplies which have been made. This is the definition of aggregate turnover, which is given in section 2 of subsection 6 of section 2, wherein all the definitions have been included. Then we have is your tax invoice that comes under subsection 66 of section 2. Now your tax invoice, it talks about, what does it talk about? That you have to issue a tax invoice as a supplier to your recipient, as given in section 31. It talks about which has been the method it has been given as per the law under section 31. Now what does the section 31 say? A registered person supplying taxable goods or taxable services shall issue a tax invoice in such manner. This in such manner has been added in the amendment. It was not there. Earlier it was not there. In this such manner word has been added now. So it was there for goods, but it was not applicable for services. So in such manner as may be prescribed. So you have to follow the rules which are given to raise the invoice in the manner as it has been prescribed. They are not saying that you have to issue an invoice in a particular format. The format can be anything. It can be 1 page, it can be 2 page also, it can be multiple pages also. But the data which is required by the government should be present in that invoice. The data which we want, we have to fill in the JSON or the schema which has been provided to us should be there in that invoice. If the data is there, then only we'll be able to feed the data for the IRN and for the QR code. Otherwise, we will not be able to feed the data and our invoice will not be accepted by the portal, invoice registration portal, IRP, and we will not be able to send the invoice to our buyer or the recipient. And if he does not get an invoice, you all know, he cannot claim input tax credit. That is for sure. So we have to be very clear कि अगर मैं आज 500 करोड़ से ऊपर वाले में आ रहा हूं तो मुझे इसी टाइप की इनवॉइस इश्यू करनी है फ्यूचर में from 1st of October 2020. I cannot issue invoices in the old system from 1st October 2020 only if I am falling in this category. Only for them, not for everyone. So section 31 talks about the invoice in which it has to be issued. Now rule 46 is again, it talks about the tax invoice referred in section 31 shall be issued by a registered person. It says that under rule 46, it says that tax invoice should be issued by the registered supplier of goods or services. Now, the invoice shall be prepared by such class of registered person as may be notified. This is your rule 48. Rule 48 के अंदर में sub rule 4, 5 and 6 has been added recently while your notification number 68 dated 13th December 2019. So all these additions are there in this rule 48, sub rule 4, sub rule 5 and sub rule 6. So we should read these rules very carefully. This is all related to your IRS. It is all related to your people, those who are falling under 500 crores and above. So I will read it for you and we'll try to understand meaning of it. The invoice shall be prepared by such class of registered persons as may be notified by the government. Such class of registered person. Now, who are the such class of registered person here? Right now, 500 crores and above. Aggregate turnover of 500 crores and above. So here we are talking about such class of persons, means those people who are coming under that category. On the recommendation of the council, by including such particulars contained in form GST INB 01 after obtaining an invoice reference number by uploading information. So this is uploading the information contained therein on the Common Goods and Services Tax electronic portal in such manner and subject to such conditions and restrictions as may be specified. So this has been very clearly given in sub rule 4 of rule 45. 48, sorry. Now, sub-rule 5 says every invoice issued by the person to whom this rule, sub-rule 4, becomes applicable in any manner other than the manner specified in sub-rule shall not be treated as an invoice. So, if you do not follow this sub-rule 4, then that invoice will not be treated as an invoice. And if the invoice is not treated as an invoice, that invoice has no value for the recipient because he will never be able to claim input tax credit, and nor you will be able to feed that invoice into your GSTR return also. Because it's an incomplete invoice, it's an invalid invoice. It's very clearly mentioned in the rule itself. So to whomever sub-rule 4 applies, they have to follow the particulars as given and as required for generating the IRN number, invoice registration number. So you have to feed all the data as required for generating the IRN number. Every invoice issued by a person to whom sub-rule, this is what we have done. Okay. Now sub-rule 6, this is the part of the rule which has been given, 3 rules which has been added, 4, 5 and 6. Now sub-rule 6 says that provisions of sub-rule 1 and 2 shall not apply to those whom rule number 4 is applicable, to whom rule 4, sub-rule 4 is applicable. जिनको ये rule applicable है, ये 4 वाला rule applicable है, उनको 1 और 2 वाला rule applicable नहीं होएगा. 1 और 2 वाला rule जो है, वो it is for people those who are under 500 crores. So it is like this. So it has been very clearly mentioned in the rules itself that those rules will not be applicable to people those to whom sub-rule 4 and 5 is applicable. So this is the addition which has been given by way of notification number 68 dated 13th of December 2009. Now, under the notification 70 dated 13/12/2019, they had given the limit as 100 crores. Which was suspended by notification number 13 dated 21/3/2020. Before COVID, just after the COVID period, it was suspended by notification 13 dated 21/3/2020. Then again further it was amended by notification of 61, which I am talking about now, 61, which has been mentioned over here also in my previous listing. So 61, which was there which has been amended on 30th of July 2020, this year, to 500 crores. From 100 crores, they increased it to 500 crores. And they have also mentioned about the exemption of SEZ in this particular notification only. Earlier, SEZ was also not exempt. In the previous notification, number 70, it was not exempt. So why notification number 61 dated 30th/7, they have exempted even SEZ to be included under this category of 500 crores. So SEZ are exempt. Why this notification? They do not have to follow IRN procedure. They do not have to register themselves and the registration portal. It is not required for them. They have been very clearly been exempted. Why this notification? Now notification 2 dated 1/1/20. E-invoice schema was amended. Wide notification 60 dated. So there was a notification on 1/1/20 number 2, which has also been amended by notification number 60 dated 3/7/20. Now, how do we go ahead about this e-invoicing? So the first thing is you have to register on the einvoice1.gst.gov.in portal. That is your invoice registration portal, IRP. You have to get registered on this portal if you are coming under the limit of 500 crores and above. It's a very simple system to register. It is not required to be registered by those people, those who have already got registered for e-way bill. जो ऑलरेडी ई-वे बिल में रजिस्टर्ड है, उनको वापस से IRP में रजिस्ट्रेशन लेने की जरूरत नहीं है. They can use the same user ID and password for creating IRN. For them, it is not required. But there are a lot many people who are not covered under this, and services was not covered into your e-way bill system at all. So those who are doing only services, they have to be very careful कि उनको IRP में registration लेना ही लेना है, जिनका turnover 500 crore से ज़्यादा है, ऊपर है, aggregate turnover. So they have to get themselves registered. But remember, government is collecting this data basically to match seller का data और buyer का data match होना चाहिए. So for matching principle, they are doing it. Plus, they are collecting this data so that they come to know what kind of invoices are being raised, what kind of products are being sold. It's going to help them a lot in creating a database for themselves. And it becomes very easier for them to have better controls. That is the basic purpose of it. ऐसा नहीं है कि इनवॉइसिंग बनाना है मतलब आपको अभी आप फंसी गए हो, ऐसा नहीं है. जो आप पहले करते थे वही आपको अभी भी करना है. बहुत ज्यादा कुछ नहीं करना है, but then it is like that. So these two systems are interlinked to each other. If you are registered under e-way bill, then you don't need to register for IRP. But if you are not registered, then you have to register for IRP. That system will automatically enable him for both, for invoice registration as well as e-way bill also. So once you have registered, it's a simple process. आप जैसे registration सब चीज के लिए करते हो, वैसे ही आपको registration लेना है. You have to go to the site. You have to put your GST number. You have to create your user ID. You will get an OTP. You have to open it, and then you will be registered. It's like this. It's a very simple system which we are doing for everything rather. हम कहीं पर भी कोई भी साइट खोलते हैं तो भी हमारा वही सिस्टम होता है. बैंकिंग अकाउंट भी खोलते हैं ऑनलाइन तो वैसे सिस्टम रहता है. So it is the same system for registration. Nothing कुछ बहुत ज्यादा टेक्निकलिटी नहीं है उसमें. So generate IRN and QR code for supplies. Now what does it say? We have to generate IRN and QR code for supplies. How do we do that? We do that by filing the details in the JSON file as required by the schema. जो उनके डेटा के रिक्वायरमेंट से वो सारे डेटा हमको JSON फाइल में भर के JSON फाइल को अपलोड करनी है. That is what is the system. IRN has to be generated for all invoices, debit notes, as well as credit notes. For intrastate transactions, including exports. So exports is also included, debit note is also included, credit note is also included. It is not applicable for delivery challan, job work challan, and bill of supply. बिल ऑफ सप्लाई के लिए नहीं एप्लीकेबल है, चालान्स के लिए नहीं एप्लीकेबल है, whether it is delivery चालान or job work चालान, it is not applicable for that, and it is not applicable for bill of supply. But it is applicable on debit note also and credit note also, and all other supplies within the state, outside the state, including exports. So your IRN is applicable to all of these. अभी तक जितने भी businesses है जिनका 500 करोड़ से टर्नओवर ज्यादा रहा है लास्ट ईयर का, they would have all received an email or a letter from the department. Ministry of Finance से आया होगा, CBIC से, or from GST department or somebody, they would have received this email from the GST department, which very clearly talks about what is to be done. So it reads like this: reference to Ministry of Finance, Department of Revenue, Government of India, CBIC notification number 60 and 61 dated 30th July. It is informed that your company is having an annual turnover of greater than INR 500 crores for the financial year 1920. It is again very clearly mentioned in the email or the letter also for the financial year 1920, and hence is applicable to issue electronic invoices, that is e-invoice, from 1st October 2020 as per notified e-invoice schema version 1.1. This is the latest version. There's no other version has been released after this. So your company will be required to issue only electronic invoices for all B2B transactions. Again, this has been mentioned in the mail itself, all B2B transactions, which will first need to be registered with the invoice registration portal so as to be considered as a valid business transaction. To consider it as a valid business invoice, you have to yourself issue an e-invoice. This mail is also to inform you that GSTN is providing a testing environment, sandbox, where you may test your respective ERP system, invoice generation system to practice the registering of your e-invoices on invoice registration portal. So you can use this portal for registering your invoices on trial basis and testing. The sandbox is also there. Sandbox is where your API can be connected, which we were talking about in the beginning today. Continuation of the email is there. Sandbox for testing has already been provisioned under this link, which has been given over here. This link is there. All technical detail. I have sent this presentation to Mr. Mangesh. Probably after the webinar today, all of you will get it in a day today or maximum by tomorrow from him. Am I correct, Mr. Mangesh?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. All technical details can be accessed at this portal, as also concept and FAQs on the everything is available on this portal. They have given you a lot of things which I have also picked up in this PPT from there, or I have also learned from there. Because the system is not in practice as of now. Anyone talking to me? जरा बंद कर दीजिए मंगेश साहब, म्यूट कर दीजिए. GSTN will be it again says GSTN will be hand holding and guiding the industry through meetings, interactive webinars. All this GSTN is going to do. They are already doing. Videos have already been launched by them. A lot of data has been already published by them. And as I told you, I have also collected a lot of data from there, which is there in this presentation also. So people have to learn and understand. And those who have already crossed 500 crore and they cannot find this email, they are requested to go to their spam folder and check for the email. It would be there. So this is what your team GSTN says. They have sent email to everyone on the basis of last year's turnover, aggregate turnover, which was more than 500 crores. उनके सबके पास में ये email पहुंच चुका है. Either email or physical letter, something would have come, or both would have come. So those who have not received it, please check their, ask your clients to check their folders, spam folders. Now they have given you one more facility to check the status for applicability, whether your business is applicable to it or not. आपको e-invoicing create करनी है या नहीं करनी है. So they have given this facility also. Taxpayer can also check his e-invoice applicability status for generating IRN by visiting e-invoicing portal and selecting e-invoicing status of taxpayer. आपको ऊपर में e-invoicing status of taxpayer मिलेगा. आप वहां जाके उसको क्लिक कीजिए IRP के ऊपर में, invoice registration portal के ऊपर. You click over there, you will find, then you fill in your GSTN number and the CAPTCHA given by them. They will get back to you. It will immediately show whether it is applicable to you or not, whether you are required to issue IRN or not. So this facility has also been given in the registration portal itself. If you still want to raise a registration, if you still want to raise IRN, you will not be allowed to do so for the time being. It will give you an error. It will give you a message 3046. Sorry, you are not enabled for e-invoicing system. Presently, only taxpayers with turnover above 500 crore are enabled. So that facility will, that answer you will get. If you try to still log in and register yourself on the IRP portal, you first of all, you will not be registered only. So this kind of error message will come to you. So those who are not coming in the requirement within the 500 crore limit, they may not follow this system at all. It is not required for them at all. It is only for large clients whose turnover is above 500 crores. So this is how you can check the portal. You go to the site, then you go to e-invoice enablement of taxpayer status. You fill in your GSTN number, fill the CAPTCHA, and you will get your answer, whether you are eligible or not, whether you fall within that category or not. So there are data fields which have been given for creating the IRN and QR code. Those data fields have to be fed in the JSON file. If you don't have that data, then your file may be, your invoice, your JSON file may be rejected and it may not create an IRN. It may not create a QR code. तो आप क्या करोगे? आपका QR कोड नहीं बना है, आपका IRN नहीं बना है, आपने जो इनवॉइस इश्यू किया है वो गलत है. It is not a valid invoice. Your recipient is also in trouble. When you file the return, you will also be in trouble. So all those things are there. So we should know what mandatory fields are there which have to be filled, which are required to be filed. There are around 170 fields they have given in this schema. 170 fields, can you imagine? 170 field है, उसमें से कुछ 47, 48 we say 50 fields are mandatory, which are required to be filed, which are required to be filled. 50 fields are mandatory out of around 170 fields. It will come in the next slide, I think. So the schema has to be followed, and the same schema is applicable for all kinds of businesses. That is the reason why 170 fields are there. Different businesses के लिए different fields है. हर एक business के लिए उन्होंने एक ही schema में involve कर दिया है. इसके लिए there are 170 fields, but the same schema has to be followed by all the businesses, whether it's a service industry, whether it's a manufacturing industry, whether it's a trading industry, whether it's an export house. जो भी है सबके लिए same schema है. Schema में कोई changes नहीं है. The data fields are different for different people, out of which around 50 are mandatory for all. Balance they have to choose as per the requirement of the individual business. So IRN generation can be done offline mode and through API also. Direct integration with the registration portal and GST. Offline mode, you can even do bulk loading by uploading the JSON file. It can be done bulk loading of using the offline tool. JSON file जैसे हम लोग अब तक करते आए हैं, same JSON file has to be uploaded as per the schema. Even bulk generation is possible. It is not that we cannot do. हमारे 100 invoices है या 1000 invoices रोज के हो रहे हैं, तो हम कैसे upload करेंगे? No, you can do it. It's not difficult. You have to just upload the JSON file. Your data has to be transferred onto the JSON file from the current accounting package or ERP system, whatever you are using, and it can be linked directly to the API and directly through the API, and your JSON file will be uploaded. Then you will get back a reply through the JSON file from them. That reply will include your IRN number and your QR code. So that is what is your final invoice, which you will have to put that QR code, you will have to put onto the invoice which you are going to issue to your recipient. आपका वो QR code आना बहुत जरूरी है. जब तक वो QR code नहीं आएगा तब तक आपका invoice invalid कहलाएगा. So that QR code has to be put on the invoice, on the face of the invoice, on the first page, anywhere you can put it. They have not said कि आपको नीचे डालना है या ऊपर डालना है या बीच में डालना है. जहां आपको जगह मिलती है आपके invoice में आप डाल सकते हैं. But that QR code is required to be put in the invoice which you are going to issue for your recipient. आपका ई-वे बिल बन गया. अगर आप गुड सप्लाई कर रहे हो 50,000 से ऊपर है, ई-वे बिल भी आपका इसी से जनरेट हो जाएगा, ऑटोमेटिक जनरेट होएगा. Once you feed the data of your invoice, your e-way will be automatically created. You don't have to go to the e-way bill site all again and create an e-way bill. So all those invoices which are coming under this category of above 500 crores turnover will be automatically generating the e-way bill wherever it is applicable. For service industry, no e-way bill is required. So wherever goods are moving above 50,000, automatically your e-way will be also created through this IRN itself. You don't have to create an e-way bill separately. That is one biggest advantage which they have given. The taxpayer needs to do the testing of API integration on the sandbox system, for which also I have given the link over here. In the sandbox system, the notified taxpayer can register and understand the process of IRN integration, how to integrate the process, his ERP system with the IRP portal, invoice registration portal. How you can do it, they have given a link also for it. That also link also I have given over here, which will be given to all of you once you get this presentation. So it will become easier for you. I have given the link. I'm not talking much about this, the technical part of this, how to integrate the system with the IRP. I'm not talking about the technical part of it. So I have given the link. You can just go to the link and understand the system, how to link it with the sandbox and with the invoice registration portal. So I'm not going to talk much about this. This is a technical part which your technical team of all your clients will understand, and they will be able to do it easily. The taxpayer can know his or his sister concern generating IRN also and e-way bills using the API after logging into the portal. So if your API is connected with the IRP portal, you will automatically know which are the sister concerns whom you have given the authority to create IRPs, to create IRN numbers and to create e-way bill also. All those details can be traced by you, and you can check which sister concern or which concern has created this invoice under the same PAN we are talking about. It may not be the same GST number, but the PAN will be same. We all know now that within the same state also we can have multiple GST numbers, which was not there earlier. Earlier it was for a specific, if you had a vertical, business vertical, different vertical, then you were allowed to register separately in the same state. But now you can have multiple registration numbers under GST, but they will all be falling under the same PAN. So one thing to understand over here is very important. 500 crores when we are talking about PAN. One PAN number, GSTN number उसके कितने भी हो कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ेगा. आपका महाराष्ट्र में, राजस्थान में, गुजरात में, बिहार में, झारखंड में कहीं पर भी रजिस्ट्रेशन होने दो, अगर उस पैन के अंडर में रजिस्टर्ड है एंड उसका एग्रीगेट टर्नओवर 500 करोड़ हो रहा है, तो he has to register himself under the IRP. That is one of the major parts in it which we all have to make our clients understand कि हमको इसको register करने के लिए it is a requirement. It's a minimum requirement from our client side. We all have to get it registered. There is no specific format for raising the invoices, but standard data fields have to be covered. So there is no specific this thing, but standard data fields have to be covered. All the data fields which are required, which are mandatory, they all have to be covered. They cannot be left without that you will not be able to generate the invoice registration, IRN. Now, this IRN is not important to be put into the invoice. What is important is QR code. IRN is a very lengthy alphanumeric number. It has got 64 characters, numerics as well as characters, mixture of both. 64 character का आपको उसमें invoice में डालना is not more important for you. What is more important is the QR code, which will again contain the IRN number also in it. We'll talk about that in the next slides. So what is important is your QR code. Very important is QR code, which has to be there on the face of invoice anywhere on that page, first page. Now this is a small flow chart which has been picked up again from the portal only. I don't know how many of you all can see or not. So the first thing is your system should be able to generate the utility file which is required. That is the JSON file or the Excel file or your ERP system, accounting system, whatever system is there, that should be able to create the required JSON file. Once it is prepare invoice as per the schema, mandatory fields to be included into it, and optional fields, if it is required by your business, fill them also. Upload the JSON file on the e-invoice portal. You can upload it directly through API, or you can upload it directly also, and through the API also, which is connected with the system directly. Or once the JSON file is pushed to the IRP, IRP will go through the JSON file, they will check it, they will see what all is applicable in it, whether it is correct or not. If there is any duplication, they will not accept the invoice, they will reject the invoice, they will send it back to you with the detail that there is some error in this invoice. So you will have to again send them the JSON file after rectification. So all those things are there. So duplication of invoices are not allowed under this system. That is very clear. If any deduplication is there, your file will be returned by the IRP. Once the file is accepted, they will return it digitally signed JSON file. They will create another JSON file digitally signed, which will have the IRN also and the QR code also, and it will come back to you. Once you receive that JSON file, you can open it, you can create a PDF, and you can put the QR code, and if you want, you can even put the IRN number on the invoice which you are going to issue to the recipient. Now, a lot of people have these questions कि क्या मैं अपने कंपनी का लोगो इनवॉइस पे लगा सकता हूँ कि नहीं? आप सब कुछ कर सकते हो. You can do everything on your invoice, but the data which has been given by the IRP should be there on the invoice. That is your QR code. QR कोड एक बार आपने उस इनवॉइस के ऊपर में डाल दिया कहीं पर भी, तो गवर्नमेंट को कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है. उसके बाद में आपको जो फॉर्मेट रखना है आप अपने इनवॉइस का रखिए. आपको चेंज करना है कीजिए, कम करना है करना है कम कीजिए, ज्यादा करना है ज्यादा कीजिए. They have no objection to that. There is no specific format for invoice, which was not there earlier also. It is not there even today. Then what does the IRP does? It also sends the authenticated payload to GST system so that your e-way bill also can be generated wherever it is required. This is your second part of the flow chart. This first part we have done over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 we have done. 4A is there. It is not much. Then your 6A. It sends, this is what is, I just told you, 6A, it sends it for your GST system for e-way bill. Now this 6B over here, it says GST system now has a unique invoice with a unique number. GSTR1 of seller is uploaded. So your GSTR1 is automatically uploaded through this IRN. आपको GSTR1 में इस invoices का कोई detail feed करने की जरूरत नहीं है. It is automatically uploaded. It is uploaded on GSTR1 as well as GSTR2 of the recipient. So it has been uploaded on both the systems. You don't have to do anything about it after that. So you have got everything. Your e-way bill is generated, your IRN is there, your QR code is there, everything is there. You have to just issue an invoice. Now it says over here, one more thing is there. The recipient also will be informed about this IRN number. So even if you do not send the invoice, they will have the invoice with them on the basis of the JSON file which has been pushed back to you. The recipient also will have the same JSON file with them, on the basis of which they can also create an invoice and a PDF with them if they want it. Now, this system does not require you to physically send the invoice anymore. IRN जिनको applicable है, उनको physically invoice भेजने की जरूरत नहीं है. You can just push the invoice either through the JSON file, or you can create a PDF and send it through an email that is accepted by the GST department. Only in cases of e-way bill also you can just have the QR code which will be readable by the infrared system which they are carrying while traveling, which is fixed on the vehicle. So that also can be done, but generally, to be on the safer side, I would suggest initially give the copy of the invoice and the e-way bill to the transporter to carry it with him. Because रास्ते में क्या होगा क्या नहीं होगा आज के तारीख में हमको मालूम नहीं है, जब तक ये सिस्टम पूरा ठीक से नहीं चलने लगता है. Till then, we suggest that one invoice and one e-way bill should be given to the transporter. An invoice, you should see that it carries the QR code which has been issued by the IRP. That is a very important part. Now, once IRN is generated, e-way will be auto-populated. E-way bill auto-populate हो गया, आपका GSTR1 auto-populated हो गया. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to go back to the e-way bill site and create an e-way bill. Automatically, your e-way bill will be generated. GSTR1 में the following data will be automatically uploaded. First is your B2B table 4A, 4B, 4C, 6B, 6C of your GSTR1. They will be automatically uploaded. This is all related to your invoice table. Then export invoice table 6A. If you have done exports, that will be also automatically uploaded. Credit note, debit note, if you raise, they will be also uploaded automatically on the GSTR1. आपको वापस से feed करने की कोई जरूरत नहीं है. HSN summary under table 12 of your GSTR1 will also be auto-populated. All this data will be auto-populated in your GSTR1. Your e-way bill is auto-populated, your GSTR1 is auto-populated, 2A is auto-populated. All these things are auto-populated because of the IRN. Even today, they are auto-populated through GSTR1 and your feeding. That is the only difference. Now, there are about 120 fields, as I told you, of which 50 are mandatory data fields, which have to be uploaded on invoice registration portal. So, 120 में से 50 तो करीबन mandatory ही है for obtaining your IRN number and digital signature from the portal. I have grouped some of the data fields together. Mostly these are mandatory fields only. Some may not be mandatory for all, but mostly which I have gathered together in these 12 items, they are all mandatory fields which is required under the system. All of them may not be mandatory, some may not be mandatory, but mostly what has been gathered over here is, so first is your document details, your document number, date, type, invoice, credit note, debit note, whatever it is, transaction detail, whether it is B2B, B2C, export, whatever it is, you have to mention. B2C, as of now, it is not applicable. B2C transactions, IRN is not applicable. I will talk about it in future slides, but I'm just telling you. It is applicable to B2B, but not to B2C. Buyer and seller details will be there. Legal name, address, PIN code, etc., everything will be there. Dispatch from where, that will be there. Ship to details will be there. Whether you are shipping it to the consignor, to the buyer, or to some other place, everything will be there. Item details will be there. HSN description, quantity, price, unit, all those things will be there. Taxable value, tax rate, and amounts, all those details have to be there. Discounts, if you are giving any, that has to be there. Other charges, if you are charging anything, that has to be there. Payment details, payee's name, bank account number, mode of payment, credit days, outstanding payment, payment due, outstanding and payment due. So these are extra details which will be required to be put. This is again a creation of data by the government. They want it for so that they can. Now we all know future में क्या होने वाला है. All other laws are also going to be interlinked with GST and GST is going to be linked with other laws. Income tax में आपको GST का डिटेल मिलेगा, GST में income tax का डिटेल मिलेगा. ये सब होने ही वाला है आगे जाके. So for this, they are creating all this database basically for large businesses as of now. Invoice reference details, contract details, purchase order details, project reference number details, other reference numbers जो भी है वो सब आपको डालना है. Export का shipping bill number डालना है, date डालना है, port code डालना है. All those things have to be there. Transport हो रहा है goods, so your distance, transport mode, transporter ID, all those things have to be put. These are all your some of the data fields which have been grouped together, which are mandatory. I have taken almost. Some of them may not be mandatory, but mostly what has been taken is all mandatory. अभी service industry के लिए transport का clause नहीं आएगा. That's a different thing. So you have to see according to that. Other details, document details like URL for supporting your document. All these details are there. Now government has made some changes in these data fields. Why the new notification which was issued by them on 30th/7, that was already notification number 61. Let's go to the next slide. Okay. Yes, this next slide says new fields have been added in the schema-wide notification number 61 dated 30th/7/2020. IGST applicability despite supplier and recipient located in the same union territory. This has been added into it. SEZ is exempt, we know, but IGST can be applicable in some other cases also where the supplier and recipient may be in the same state or union territory. Export duty amount, this is optional. Discount amount, this is optional. This has been added. These fields were not there earlier. Through this notification, they've added in the schema these fields also. Other charges, again optional. Recipient state code was earlier option. It has been made mandatory now. So these changes they have made through this notification dated 30th/7/2020. State code optional से mandatory कर दिया है. पहले it was optional, now they have made it mandatory. Now this next slide talks about the QR code. What all QR code will contain? QR code में आपको क्या-क्या रहेगा included. Through the QR code, following particulars will be available. First is your GSTN of supplier. Second is your GSTN of recipient. Invoice number as given by the supplier. As you have given the invoice number, not the IRN number we are talking about. IRN is different. This is the invoice number. Date of generation of invoice, invoice value, taxable value and gross value, number of line items, HSN code of main item, and the unique invoice reference number, that is the IRN number. 64-digit IRN number. That will also be there in this QR code. So ये QR code के अंदर आपकी सारी details आ गई है almost. Major part of your invoices covered in this QR code. GSTN of recipient and supplier, both of is there. Invoice number as given by you is there. Date of invoice raising is also there. Invoice value is also there. Number of items, everything is there. So this QR code will have the details. That is why government is insisting that QR code is an important part of IRN. That QR code has to be there on the invoice. Until you have the QR code on the invoice, it has no value. Now invoice for customer, as I told you earlier, we already discussed about it. QR code is generated, e-invoice can be printed. For customer invoice with IRN and QR code, both can be done, but QR code is must. आपको IRN भी डालना है तो आप डाल सकते हैं separately, but it is not required. You can put it in very small fonts in any corner of the invoice, but it is not required. It is not going to help in any way because it cannot be scanned. Nothing can be done. Only your QR code can be scanned. Also note, invoice for generation of IRN will have to start with numbers from 1. You cannot have 001. You cannot have characters in your invoice. आप स्लैश नहीं डाल सकते हो, डैश नहीं डाल सकते हो, वो सब नहीं चलेगा आगे के IRN के invoices में. You will have to have 1, 2, 3, 400, 500, 5,000 like that. It cannot have 001 also. So if you want to create an IRN, please remember this. Your invoice cannot have the invoice number as 001. It has to have number 1 only. It cannot have 1/1 also. It cannot have 12/1 also. So you cannot use any of the characters in the invoice. It has to be only numerical and without any special characters in it. If you have any special character, it will not accept. Your JSON file would be returned to you without acceptance. It may not even accept in the system only first thing. And if it is somehow accepted, it will be returned to you. So please be careful of this part. When you are raising an invoice, your numbers or invoice numbers should be very clear in numbers only. It can be only in numbers. No specific characters are allowed. Now this is how it will look. The JSON file which will be returned by them, it will have all these details. See here, you can see the IRN number. This is your 64 digit which has got alphanumerical. इसका आप कुछ भी नहीं कर सकते हो, इसका कोई वैल्यू नहीं है. आपको प्रिंट करना है तो आप कीजिए आपके इनवॉइस पे, बट इसकी जरूरत नहीं है because everything is there in this QR code. Everything else is there. They also have an acknowledgement number on this. This acknowledgement number sometimes is useful because when you want to refer to your invoice, they may ask for an IRN number or an acknowledgement number. So acknowledgement number is smaller, you can put it. IRN number, you cannot put it until and then you copy paste it. So they have given an acknowledgement number also. That acknowledgement number can be used sometimes as a reference to your IRN. Or otherwise, you can use a core QR code. You can scan it and you'll get all the details which are there in your invoice, which has been returned by the portal. Now, these are some of the quick notes on printing of invoice. Printing of QR code on invoice is mandatory. Please listen to this word. It is mandatory. You cannot say, "Mera man hoega to main karunga, nahi hoega to nahi karunga." It is not possible. It has to be printed. QR code can be placed anywhere on the invoice. It does not matter. QR code will be digitally signed by the invoice registration portal. IRP से वो digitally sign होके आएगा. So your invoice is digitally signed by the portal now. It has more value than your own signature also. Portal से sign होके आया है, that means it has got more value than your own signature also. QR code also contains the IRN number, 64 digit encoded but unencrypted. A lot of people are feeling that the 64 digit code is encrypted. No, sorry, it is not encrypted. It is unencrypted. It can be seen, you can understand, you can read it. It is not encrypted. A lot of people are feeling that IRN code will be encrypted. No, it is not encrypted. So quoting printing of IRN on paper invoice is optional. It is your choice whether you want to put it or not. If you don't want to put it, please don't put it. It is not required. The law does not say anything about it. B2C QR code is not applicable since B2C invoices are not accepted as of now. B2C is not coming in the IRN system only. So B2C invoices will not come in this system. They also have an app for authenticity of the IRN, which is on Android as well as iOS. So you can download that app, mobile app, and for authenticity of the QR code, you can check the QR code and you will know whether it is valid or not. So you can verify the QR code also. Verification of signed invoice. Signed invoice issued by the portal can be verified for authenticity by anyone. Only if you have the JSON file. The person who has got the JSON file which has been returned by the portal, then only you can verify. Until and then you have the JSON file, you cannot verify it. Only those who have the JSON file can verify it. When I say anyone, means either the recipient or the supplier or whomever you have given that JSON file or your sister concerns who are authorized to access it to the API. Only those people can upload the JSON file and get it verified. So this is the verification method. You just go to the portal, verify signed invoice. They have asked over here, upload the JSON file. So you have to upload the JSON file only here. There is no other option over here. So until you have the JSON file, you cannot verify the signed invoice. You need to have the JSON file. But those who have got the scanning facility, those who have got the application, they can scan the QR code and verify it. QR code से वो verify कर सकते हैं, कोई भी कर सकता है. QR code can be verified by everyone. But signed invoice you can verify on this system only when you have an JSON file, not otherwise. Now the point comes whom it is become applicable. We have to understand that part. Let us go to that part. We'll do it slowly one by one. It is applicable only for B2B as of now. It is not applicable for B2C. It is also applicable to B2G. When I say B2G, government. Government means most of the governments are now registered under GST. Either for their TDS or whatever it is, they are mostly getting registered now. So जो भी registered है, उनका turnover 500 crore से ऊपर है, so it becomes applicable to them. So B2C is exempt. Exempt means B2C is not included as of now. Further, it is applicable only for forward charge. Reverse charge is not applicable. But reverse charge, which is applicable to lawyers, etc., that will be there. Other than that, no reverse charge by the recipient I am talking about. यहाँ पे कंपल्सरी रिक्वायरमेंट है गवर्नमेंट का कि ये इनवॉइसेस रिवर्स चार्ज में ही इश्यू होगी तो वहां पे एप्लीकेबल होगा. अदरवाइज इट विल नॉट बी एप्लीकेबल इफ देयर टर्नओवर इज अगेन कमिंग अबव 500 crore. Otherwise it is only applicable to forward charge as of now, not applicable to reverse charge. It is applicable to exports. It is also applicable to e-commerce. E-commerce के लिए भी applicable है. So that is again a very important part to understand. Full e-commerce industry will come under this. So it is applicable to e-commerce. It is not applicable to imports. Imports के लिए नहीं applicable है. It is not applicable to imports. And as I told you, the schema field is same for everyone. There is a facility of RCM also in the schema, but it is for supplier. It is not for recipient. Please do not get confused when I say that it is not applicable to RCM. It is applicable to RCM only in case of supplier, but not in case of recipient. So 500 crores aggregate turnover, B2B, B2G in most of the cases, forward charge, e-commerce, export. These are the things where it is applicable. B2C it is not applicable. Reverse charge it is not applicable. And imports it is not applicable. So these are the things where it is applicable. So, and now what has been given exemption? Exemptions given to SEZ, but not SEZ developer. Again, remember this. Only SEZ, not SEZ developer. SEZ developer has not been given any exemption. They have to come under this IRM only. There is no exemption for SEZ developer. It is only for SEZ. Banking company, insurance company, NBFC, financial institution, all of them have been given exemption. But this exemption again is for only the banking transaction. If they are doing any other transaction, suppose a bank has got a property and they've given it on rent, commercial property, then that will have to be covered under your IRN. They will have to get themselves registered under the IRP, and they will have to, because most of the banks are having more than 500 crores turnover. That aggregate will automatically be applicable to them. Both their services are exempt, but in an aggregate turnover, we all know that even exempt services are included in the turnover. तो आपका registration अगर हो गया है तो आपको applicable हो जाएगा if you are doing any other business other than the banking business. It is not applicable only in case of banking, insurance services activities only. Any other activity if you are doing, then your IRN will become automatically applicable. It is again not applicable to GTA for the time being. Passenger transport, it is not applicable. ISD, it is not applicable. Admission to multiplexes for films, they have specifically mentioned only films for the time being. Multiplex में और कुछ हो रहा है तो it may not be applicable, but it is not applicable for entrance to the multiplexes for films. Exemption में उन्होंने very clearly दिया है. And there is no way to optionally opt for IRN until you are eligible to fall or you fall within the category of that. आप बोलोगे कि मेरा 500 करोड़ से कम का है लेकिन मुझे register करना है, I want to raise an invoice, e-invoice. Sorry, you will not be allowed to do that until you reach the 500 crores turnover or they reduce the limit to any other this thing, 100 crores or 300 crores or whatever it is. Whatever they decide. Till then, you cannot register yourself. There is no way to voluntarily register yourself under the scheme. Okay. This is the data. Nothing is visible in it. I know. Don't worry. But since it is there in the slide, when it comes to you, you can enlarge and see it. The next sheet is very important, not this sheet. State-wise active from 17/7/2020 is the figure which I have taken from the site. 17/7/2020, that is July. Now, here the number given is your total number is 1 crore 24 lakhs, 23 lakhs 83,000 around. So 1 crore 24 lakhs are your active taxpayers. 1 crore 43 lakhs are your active taxpayers. And then so this is what it is. Around we have as on the 17th of July, it is 1 crore 23 lakhs active taxpayers under GST. Out of which what it says, so around 1.25 crore registrations we have. Applicability to less than 1%. Around 45,000 whose turnover is above 500 crores. So you can understand only less than 1% are involved into this 500 crore IRN or IRP registration. But they contribute to the tax receipts of approximately 45%. So less than 1% of the registrants contribute 45% of your GST. Imagine. So, आपका 45% tax तो इसी में cover हो जाएगा with these 500 crores and above. So they are contributing, the receipt of tax from them is around 45%. Look at the amount of tax and look at the number of registrants who are covered into this. So this is what it is. This is all based on your previous year's turnover and the number of registrants as of July 2020. On the basis of that, these figures have been arrived. This data has been also given by the site only. This has all been taken from the site. Now let us look at some of the points from recipient point, from supplier point, and advantages of e-invoicing. Let us discuss few of these points. Now, as far as the recipient is concerned, he should be aware that his supplier is required to issue an invoice with IRN QR code. अभी आप मेरे supplier हैं तो मुझे कैसे मालूम पड़ेगा कि आपको IRN applicable है कि नहीं है? So I have to go to the site, put your GST number and check whether you come under that category or not. So that is an extra work for me, and I should be sure that I get an IRN invoice from you. If I don't get it, that invoice is invalid for me as a recipient. So that is an extra work for me as a recipient. I have to take care of that part. I should know whether I am eligible for, I am supposed to get an IRN invoice from you or not. To claim ITC under section 16, recipient has to have a valid invoice. We all know that. I spoke to you about it earlier also. And rule 48.5 also we have spoken earlier, which very clearly states invoice not issued in prescribed manner will not be treated as an invoice. So recipient has to be very careful that he gets an IRP registered invoice with IRN number and QR code wherever it is applicable. Otherwise, it will not be treated as an invoice in his hands and he will not be able to claim the input tax credit. The recipient has to keep separate records. He needs to keep the records which are e-invoice and which are non-e-invoice. He will be receiving goods and services from everywhere. Some of them will be from e. Those who are coming below 500 crores, he will have to create a separate vendors list. And he will, once he creates a list, he will know कि इनके यहाँ से IRN का ही invoice आना चाहिए. Until he has that, he will not even know about it. Details also to be checked in return for all e-invoices as have reflected or not. Auto populator, okay, 2A में आया है कि नहीं, वो भी उसको check करना है. All invoices should automatically auto populate. It will come, but he should check it. अभी initially तो बहुत जरूरी है at least. Capture IRN from QR code. ERP system to scan QR code. He has to have an ERP system to scan or the application to scan the QR code. What happens to the goods which have been returned after 1st October? Credit note has to be issued for them. What applicability is there? The same applicability is there. 500 crore से ऊपर है, goods आपने भेजे हैं, आप credit note दे रहे हो 1st October के बाद में, तो वो IRN created होना चाहिए credit note. Credit notes are included, debit notes are included, we know, and invoices are included. And when I say invoices, it includes also the revised invoice. Revised invoice is only in case of when you have the registration for the first time. That time only you are allowed to create a revised invoice. Otherwise, you are not allowed to create any revised invoice. So, in all the cases, if you are issuing a credit note after 1st October 2020 and you come under this category of registered person for e-invoicing, your credit note will be registered through the IRP only, and then only it will be a valid document. So goods आपके पहले आ गए, supposing return हो गए, आपने उसके बाद में credit note किया है, 1st October के बाद में दिया है, तो it has to be registered under the system of your IRP. It has to be registered with the IRP portal, and then only it will be treated as a valid document. Some of the advantages of e-invoices. Let's see whether they are really advantageous or not. We'll come to know slowly. As of now, I cannot say anything about it, whether they are really advantageous or not. You have a uniform e-invoice system. That is one of the good things. Everyone will create a same e-invoice. The standardized e-invoice system will be there. It is not different for oil industry. It is not different for trading industry. It is not different for some manufacturing industry. Everyone will have the same e-invoice. That's a good thing. So readability of data from system to system becomes easier. If you have a standard format of e-invoice, it becomes very easy for data to be read by machines from one machine to another machine. So that advantage is there. It will reduce the transcriptional error, hence less reconciliation. Transcriptional errors will be very less because of the standard format and the invoice which you are raising under the system. So that's an extra advantage. Auto reporting into the GSTR returns. Auto reporting आपके GSTR1 में आ रहा है. All the tables which I have mentioned. E-way bill is auto generated. You don't have to create any separate e-way bill. Auto generated wherever it is required. Reduction of disputes among transacting parties due to standardization. There cannot be any different format. Same invoice format is applicable to everyone. So it says it becomes easier even for legal departments to understand those invoices, and then question of first dispute will also be reduced in the initial stage itself. You don't have to go to the redressal for the differences in invoices. That's what the government is saying. It will improve the payment cycle also because you are mentioning the details about the payments, outstanding payment, your terms of contract with the buyer, everything is there. Increasing business efficiency by reduction in cost in the long run. Reduction in cost may not be there initially, but in the long run, there may be less cost involved because a lot of data will be auto-populated. You may have less manpower comparatively. I'm not sure of it as of now, but it may happen. And that's what the government says, increasing the business efficiency by reduction in cost in the long run. System level matching of input and output credit. This is a very good thing. Your input and output will be matched on the system itself. आपने माल बेचा है, उसको क्रेडिट मिलना है, उसके 2A में दिखना ही दिखना है automatically. There is no chance it will not be seen because invoices have to be uploaded immediately. It is not that you are uploading the invoice 5 days after, 10 days after, or 4 days after. It will reduce a lot of paperwork and cost of sending the invoices by courier and all those things. These are small things which we are not concerned, but it is going to save paperwork as well as paper, both the things. So which is again important for our country. This is the same thing given in a chart. Now from supplier point of view, it increases compliances for him. He has to go to the IRP portal, register, upload the JSON file. All those things are there. Actually, it would not increase to a way greater extent because you are doing it every day. Plus, it is system generated system you will be creating. Your ERP system will be automatically connected with through the API with the GST system directly. So everything will be uploaded instantly, directly. The moment the invoice is raised, it will go to the system. But it is a cost, one-time cost might be there, but otherwise, extra work for issuing invoices and getting IRN and QR code. Upload the JSON file and all that. Receive e-invoice and print invoice with QR code. अगर कस्टमर को आपको वापस इनवॉइस भेजना है तो आपको प्रिंट करना है, उसमें QR कोड डालना है, IRN अगर डालना चाहते हो तो ऑप्शनल है, आप डाल सकते हो. That is also there. Keep record of cancelled invoices once registered with e-invoice portal. Supplier, you have raised an invoice, you are allowed to cancel it only within 24 hours, not about 24 hours. You are allowed to cancel an invoice within 24 hours. But if you have cancelled an invoice, then you have to keep a record of it. You have to inform the IRN also, IRPR, and then you cannot raise an invoice again with the same number. आपने invoice number 5 cancel किया तो आप 5 वापस नहीं raise कर सकते हो, because उनके यहाँ जो है वो system में upload हो जाएगा एक बार, so it will not be deleted. It will also reflect in your GSTR1. So when it reflects into your GSTR1 and you have cancelled it, so you have to keep a record of it and you have to do the amendment in the GSTR1 while you are filing it. तब आपको वहां से इस invoice को delete करना है. It is your work to see that. So you have to keep records of your cancelled invoices, if any, which has been uploaded on the IRP. एक बार आपने पोर्टल पे अपलोड कर दिया है और 24 आवर्स के अंदर आपने कैंसिल किया है, only you are allowed to cancel it within the 24 hours. And if the e-way bill has already been utilized, the movement has happened, then you cannot cancel it within 24 hours also. So these things you have to remember. You were already earlier handling 2 portals wherever it was applicable. Now you have to handle 1 more portal. So there is an extra burden for the supplier. You have to log in and check whether valid e-invoice has been generated. आपको वापस log in करके check करना है. Check e-way bill whether it has been auto-populated or not. Check GSTR1 whether the details have come into or not. So these are the extra works for the supplier which he has to do. But then slowly this becomes part of your system and most of these things becomes auto-generated. And he has to keep records separately of B2B and B2C because B2C is not coming under IRN. So he has to show those records in GSTR1. तो GSTR1 में अब जब आपको डालनी है B2C की सारी records आपको feed करनी है, B2B की आपको feed करनी है, B2B above 500 crores only will come automatically in GSTR1. Other details will have to be fed by you only. तो आपको डालने हैं या आपको check करने हैं अगर auto populate होके भी आए हैं तो you will have to check them. So you have to have separate records for all of these. B2B, B2C, B2B above 500, all of these you will have to have separate records for them. Cancellation of IRN, again important thing as I told you, it can be done only within 24 hours. Beyond 24 hours, it is not possible to cancel it. IRN cannot be cancelled if valid e-way bill exists for that IRN. If valid e-way bill is there, that means you already commenced the journey, the goods have moved, then you cannot cancel the e-way your IRN. It also within 24 hours. Once e-invoice is cancelled, then 1 more IRN cannot be generated on the same invoice number. This I have already spoken about. GSTR1 auto population, we have already spoken about it in length, I think. What they are saying over here is invoice uploaded by taxpayer will take precedence. Invoice uploaded by taxpayer will take precedence in your GSTR1. If taxpayer has uploaded first invoice in the invoice system and simultaneously in GSTR1, then invoice uploaded by taxpayer will prevail as auto population will happen later. So they are talking about what will happen if you upload the invoice first and then what will the impact of it on GSTR1. So this is your invoice portal, which it looks like, which has been created by NIC. This is your home. Various laws it talks about. Help is here. Search is here. You have to go for search in some cases. Downloads, contact us, registration. This is the part of registration where you have to log in. After login, you can just register over here. Then these are some of the details which they have given. PIN code is there, product and services is there, verify signed invoices is there, e-invoices status of the taxpayer is there, master codes are there, tools, FAQs, user manuals under this help, this thing, under search, all of these are there. So these facilities are available on the IRP portal. This is the first page of your IRP portal, how it looks like. You can register. They have the details over here, the latest one. अभी जो दिखा रहे हैं उसमें शायद September 11 का last दिखा रहे हैं. So all of these are there. This is the old one which I have with me. So this is where you have to do the registration. ये registration का जो दिखाया है, यहाँ आपको registration करना है, जाके. Once you are registered, you can just log in and create your IRN numbers by submitting the JSON file. Bulk upload procedure, one can prepare the JSON file for IRN request as per API schema provided on the portal, or go to e-invoice one portal, download the tool for preparation of the JSON for IRN request. You can do that. Copy and paste your data as per the format of tool and generate the JSON file. Log into the portal, select bulk upload facility and upload the JSON file. System processes the request and provides the IRN or error based on the validation of the JSON file. So it is the same procedure what we have been following as far as JSON is concerned. This is not new for us, or it should not be new even for our client. So these are some of the latest updates which have been given by them. This is on 11/9, that is yesterday. Tolerance limit for past value amount for calculation will be between plus minus 1 rupee. So if it is, they have given an example. If the amount is 2345.34, it will have a tolerance limit between 2344 and 2347. This has been given yesterday only in the update. 11/9, this is the latest update. The taxpayers can now register and integrate their API through the ERP system. This has also been opened now, 11/9, yesterday only. So this is the latest update as of 11/9. Today we are on 12th. This was the update as on 7/9. ERPs shortlisted by GST and have been enabled to register and test the API on sandbox system. Sandbox के बारे में मैंने शुरू में बात किया था. तो सैंडबॉक्स सिस्टम के ऊपर में आप API से लिंक कर सकते हैं अपने. So that's what it is. The e-commerce operator have been enabled to register and test APIs on the sandbox. E-commerce also can register and test on the sandbox. The taxpayers have been enabled to self-register for e-invoice system if they cross the aggregate turnover of 500 crores. So they have also been enabled. Now what they have done over here is they have done in any of the 3 financial years. Previous 3 financial years में भी कभी भी enable हो गया है तो उनके लिए enable कर दिया है. But अभी तक उन्होंने बोला क्या है? It is applicable to those who have crossed 500 crores in the previous year. They have not spoken anywhere that if you have crossed 500 crores any time in the previous 3 years, you have become eligible. Then that has not been mentioned as of now. To my knowledge, till now it is applicable to only those people whose turnover in the previous year 2019-20 was above 500. That's what they have mentioned in the email also, what they have sent, or the letters they have sent. They have very clearly mentioned. So, but उन्होंने open किया है in any of the 3 years if your turnover has been more than 500. So they want to include this later stage probably. Mobile app for verification of QR code and signed e-invoice file has also been released. So this has also been released. So mostly I think we have covered with everything related to e-invoice. Now we'll come to some of the FAQs, which should come to your mind also. Some questions should come from your side also at the end, in the end. Till now, I don't think I have anything on the chat box. No, I do not have any questions on the chat box as of now, but we should get this. Now, this already I have answered to you earlier. What happens to the credit notes and debit notes raised after 1st October? They have to be, will they need the validation of IRP? Yes, they will need the validation of IRP. I already informed you earlier only. How to know particular supplier is supposed to issue an e-invoice? So you have to go and check it into the IRP system. You have to put his GST number. You will know whether he is eligible to be issued. He is supposed to issue IRN or not. So you will have to go to the e-invoice portal, and they have published a list also. You can check from that list also on the e-invoice portal to those whom it is applicable. So you can check it from there also. Whether government will provide any tool to report invoices to IRP? Yes. For small entities not having their own ERP software solutions, a free offline utility will be provided through which invoices can be easily prepared, reported to IRP, and obtain the IRN and signed invoice. It can be done. So government is giving this facility also. Yeah, there is a question from Manisha. It says that what happens if any year the turnover becomes less than 500 crores? See, right now we are talking only about 1920 financial year turnover. To them it is applicable. It is not even talking in the current year. Last year your turnover was supposed 4 crores 98 lakhs. You were not under the 500 crore scheme. But this year, within this much time only, you have already crossed 500 crores. What happens, whether it is applicable to you or not? It is very silent as of now. It talks about 18, 19 only. So the same thing will happen if your turnover reduces below 500 crores in the current year. It does not matter if it, as long as your previous year turnover was above 500 crore, it becomes applicable and you will have to raise the e-invoice only. So it does not matter at all. So for small entities, they've got a separate system wherein they can use it and create the IRN. How will we know about mandatory and optional fields? So this small detail I have just given as notations. Wherever starts with O, it is optional. Wherever it starts with 1, it is mandatory. Wherever it starts with 1, it is mandatory. Ends with 1, data for the field can be entered only once, which ends with 1, data field that can be entered only once. And ends with N, that data field can be entered multiple times. Mr. Ghanshyam, no entity will be small entity. 500 crores and above will be all large entities only. So I have no answer for that.
The future.
Pardon?
I think this is for the future, where even small entities will have to go for this in IRN.
Yeah, when it becomes applicable, then they will have to. Yeah. Okay. The next question is, can supplier place their entity logo on e-invoice? I've already spoken about it. You can place your logo, but this logo is not required to import in the schema. So remember that. It is only for your recipient and for your own purposes. The system does not need any logo from you. Is port code necessary for all exports invoices? No. Port code is, as of now, it is not necessary, but there is a provision in the schema and you can put the port code if you want. If you don't want, don't put it, it is optional as of now. What about bill to ship transactions? Which PIN code is to be entered? Buyer or shipper? पिन कोड और शिप टू जिसको आप शिप कर रहे हो उसका ही पिन कोड डालना है आपको whenever it is bill to ship, not buyer. Now what about supplies which are not covered under GST, like alcohol for human consumption supplied in a restaurant or a hotel? One invoice can be generated. No, you cannot raise one invoice, because in other cases it will be an e-invoice, and for products which are not required, which are not covered under GST, you will have to raise a separate invoice. Under the same invoice you cannot do, because that invoice will be registered with the IRP and it will be returned to you as a JSON file with the QR code and the IRN. So you will have to have two different invoices. But you don't need to invoice. As far as B2C is concerned, it is not applicable as of now. Only in B2B it is applicable. So you don't need to worry. आपके यहाँ कोई consumer आया है, आपको invoice raise करनी है, तो आप जैसी invoice raise कर रहे हो वैसी करनी है. वो IRP से registered होके आपको देने की जरूरत नहीं है. It is only in case of B2P. Please remember that. B2C is not applicable as of now, even though your turnover is above 500 crores. E-invoicing applicable to SEZ. SEZ has been exempt. It is an old one when it was not applicable. SEZ has been exempt, but SEZ developer has not been exempt. Remember that. SEZ has been exempt. What do you do in case of continuous supply? Continuous supply, what will you do after 1st October? Only. There is no option available. So there is no time gap given कि आप अक्टूबर के पहले महीने में आप वैसे ही इनवॉइस यूज करो, बाद में जाके आप IRP में रजिस्टर करो और करो. All those things are not there. There is no time gap given by the government. You have to yourself register, and this becomes applicable from 1st of October only. So government has given the awareness videos. They are trying to create awareness for people, those who are involved with 500 crores and above. सबको उन्होंने mails भेज दिए हैं. They're putting on the presentations on site. Everything is available. So without this webinar also, people will have to give time to understand and learn the thing, and they can do it. Everything is available. Government is making its efforts to make it accessible to those whom it has become applicable. They have made YouTube videos also from government side. There's a YouTube video also available. I've given the link also of that, so you can see it. I think we have covered everything related to e-invoicing. Any question from anyone? And I think we finished it on time also, almost just 16:58 my watch shows.
If anyone have question, please unmute and ask the questions. I think you explained very well, so there are no questions.
Thank you so much. I'm glad that I was given this opportunity and I could use it. Though the number of people present was less, as it was informed by Ghanshyam that probably 500 crores ke clients loge paas bahut kam hai. That could be one of the reasons. Yeah. But then it is very important for us to know as professionals, even if we do not have clients today, tomorrow they will come. Because we want everyone to grow and have big clients also, not only small clients.
Yes.
So it will be useful to everyone. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. All of you, Ramesha sir, everyone, Kakira, everyone has joined. I'm happy that you all have given this opportunity and everyone enjoyed it. That's more important. And the chat box shows that you all have really liked the presentation and explanations given. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I would request Jabbarji to please present vote of thanks.
Yeah, thanks very much, Mr. Jain. It was really an excellent presentation. And every one of us was just seeing the details with which we have gone into and given us the important aspects of it, particularly with respect to the portal, the registration procedure, the bulk upload procedures, and you were kind enough even to give us the latest one of what was uploaded on 11/9/2020. So on behalf of the BKC and on behalf of all the participants, I thank you for your wonderful presentation. And we hope that you'll be guiding us in future also with respect to any of our queries. So thank you, Mr. Suresh Jain, and thank you, Mr. Mangesh, for organizing this wonderful required, you can say, the presentation that was done today. Thank you very much, Mr. Suresh.
Thank you so much. The presentation has already been shared with Mr. Mangesh. He will be forwarding it to all of you. Thank you
very much
once again.
Thank you everyone. Thank you very much for participating.
Thanks, Mangesh.
Thank you.